All right, we're looking at a 2021 Silverado that's wet because all it does is rain in St. Louis for the last month. Anyway, I just bought this. I think it's got about 5,000 miles on it. And we're going to put running boards on today and a rough country leveling kit in the front. I got it jacked up actually a little bit right now, but I guess these have a little bit of a rate to them from the factory. And rough country sells a 2-inch leveling kit that'll level out the front end a little bit and make it more level. So we're going to go ahead and put that on first and go through the steps of putting it on. I'll just show how to do one side. Both sides will be the same. And I'll show you the kit and what's involved with putting it on. Alright, the first thing when you do is remove these the skid plates, plastic skid plates, 6 13mm bolts on the 21. And then what you're going to do is just connect the 3 wires going to your electric rack, or the 3 plugs. And the first 2 are pretty easy to get to here. You just pull up on the red and push in and they should come off. Now this third one on the top is upside down, so this part here, sorry that's blurry, this part here is facing upward. So I had to get a mirror and a pick and get it off. It's kind of a pain. It's a marvel in GM engineering to put it upside down and away from you. And had to use a mirror. But anyway, once you get those 3 disconnected, then you can move on to actually putting the lift on and going to the suspension. Alright, so the first thing it tells the instruction is take off the tie rod. It's 21 mil on these. At least on the 21 it is. And then it says just hammer it right here a little bit like you would normally to pop it loose. Take it out. I always put the nut back so I don't lose it. Put that off to the side. It says next thing to do is to remove your ABS lines from this knuckle here. So I'll go ahead and get the tools real quick and we'll remove that. Alright, so it looks like we got some 10mm we got to release. Take this ABS sensor. And like I said before, I'm just going to put them back in the holes. We have a 10 down here by the ABS sensor. At least if you got a newer truck like this one's basically brand new. These will slide right out. If you don't, if you have an older one, it's a little rusty. Really shouldn't be with aluminum, but you never know. Just be careful taking them out. We have the 10 over here for the brake line. And I'm just putting all the bolts right back where they came from, so I'm not looking for them later. There's a 10 on the back here. So once you get all those out, it says remove the brake caliper. So I'm going to grab my anchor for the brake caliper to hold off to the side. You don't want to just there's another one right here. So there's all kinds of retainers on this. Looks like they're all 10 mil. Anyway, the next step is take the brake caliper off, and we don't want to just hang it off by the hose. So I'm going to go get an anchor for it real quick, and we'll take that off next. All right, it's 2 18mm for these calipers. So we're just going to take the bolts out and then hang it off to the side. And they do have some factory thread lock in there, so it's pretty definitely takes a little bit of effort to get it off. looking for a place to hang it. There's a spot on the frame. I can hook onto it. Alright, so I hung off on the frame on that, and the caliper's off to the side. Alright, so I'm going to take a 36 millimeter and loosen this axle nut. Alright, the next thing it says to do is to remove the upper ball joint. I believe that's 19 millimeter on these. Sorry about that. 19 mil, and then we might have to whack it a little bit right here to get it to release. Alright, the reason you're removing that axle nut in the front is you don't want to overextend your axle or your CV. So we're just kind of, I've already got it kind of out and free. You just don't want it pulling on it real hard. And then it's the same deal, just kind of tap on your knuckle here a little bit. The ball joint will go free, and then you can just set this kind of like off. It's just going to hang like this, it's fine. Next thing it says to do is remove the nut for the sway bar link, and then the two lower strut mounts here. So I get the sockets for that, and then we'll hit those real quick. Alright, so this lower sway arm link is 18 millimeter on these. So it's just one nut. And then it says to loosen up the lower strut there, which is 15 mil. So we'll just go under. They're facing upward towards the front, and we will just knock those loose real quick. So your whole lower control arm now is probably not a bad idea to put something under there to suspend it up. I'll probably get another jack and put it under there. But here's your two bolts for the lower strut. So now we got to pull this harness off up here at the top, and then there's I think 3 18 millimeter bolts. So I'll get you up there, and then we'll pull that stuff off, and then we can pull the strut assembly out and start adding the actual lift part to it. Alright, you got 3 bolts up top. In the directions it says there's 18 millimeter bolts holding this wiring harness in and up here. This is a 2021. On this one, there's nothing holding it in. You just pop it up with a screwdriver. All it is a plastic grommet type thing. So I just used a big screwdriver and kind of pulled it up. Now on these, it's easier. You can't get to these bolts from the top. So it's easier if you have an 18 millimeter open end ratcheting wrench to get to it. Or you can do what I did and loosen them up about halfway with an open end, and then get a 1/2 inch socket with a 18 mil on it, and it should go over it and allow you to do it the rest of the way. There's only 3 bolts holding it, so once you get 2 of them out, you know, this will fall out, so you got to be mindful of that. Make sure you hold it when you get that last bolt out. So I'm taking the last one out now, and then we'll pull this strut out. So once you get the 3 out, then this whole thing should pull out as an assembly. Alright, so this stuff's a little bit tricky on these Silverados because there's not a whole lot of coils on the spring. So I actually use 4 coil spring compressors. In the instructions it says you compress it and then rotate the strut 180 degrees. So I went ahead and marked where the coil and everything was at on it, and I just rotated 180 degrees, the actual strut itself, and now it's ready to be decompressed and put back to normal. They do that so that the bar pins on the bottom of the strut line back up. I guess when you put 2 inches on it, it changes the angle of that. So anyway, you can rent those tools at a auto parts store if you need to, but you need to compress that strut just so you can rotate that strut, or compress the spring so you can rotate the strut. And it's probably one of the few tool, probably the only tool you would need extra that you may not have. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and take those off, and then that thing should seat back where it's supposed to. So the instructions say to measure off 1 1/4 from the bottom and mark it, which I have already done. I got white paint on there. And basically what you're doing is just, it looks like you're just cutting off these nubs there on top of the studs. So I've already got them marked off. And just take a cut-off wheel and basically cut off those nubs there on top. But it is 1 1/4 inch from the top. And I'm going to double check it. And we're right at 1 1/4. So I'm going to do that to the other two, and then we'll pick it back up. Alright, so you're just putting the spacer on top of the strut here. And then you're going to take your spacer, this other spacer here. That's actually a cover, this is a spacer. And you're going to put your 3 bolts down into the cradle, the hex holes. And then you're going to just put this upside down and put it over the top of this spacer. Like that. And then we're going to install the nuts that are with the kit. Alright, once you got the washers installed, the nylon bolts or nuts, you can go ahead and torque it down. And the reason why you're knocking off those studs is because this is going back up into the strut tower there of the truck. And if those were sticking up, this wouldn't sit flush. So you got to make sure that this is down far enough to where it can sit flush. Alright, so I went ahead and slid the strut up top, and I started the nuts that come with the kit. They're the bigger nylon nuts and washers. So I got it secured up the top, and then I got the bottom started. And the instructions say put the factory clip back in the front on the front side and leave it out on the back side, and they give you a new bolt, 2 washers, and nut for the back side. So we're going to have 15 millimeter on this side, we're going to tighten up, then 17 millimeter on this side, and then we can go ahead and tighten the top. And the instructions say do not tighten the top more than 30 foot-pounds, so that's not a whole lot. So just be mindful of that. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten this stuff up, and then we'll move to the top. Alright, I went ahead and seated the axle back. You want to seat the axle, then you put a jack underneath your lower control arm and start your upper ball joint, and then we'll go ahead and tighten that and tighten the axle. On these top ones, since the rough cut kit, or rough country kit, is a little bit shorter studs, you can get a normal 18 millimeter socket in there and tighten these up. So I'm just doing that on these top 3. It says no more than 30 foot-pounds, so you don't want to go too crazy on it. Just get them nice and snug, tight, but 30 foot-pounds is not a whole lot. Alright, so I got the 15 factory bolt started. I'm just doing the 17 millimeter rough country bolt. So those are tight. I'm just going to go ahead and tighten the top up here real quick, 30 foot-pounds. We'll move on from there. I won't show you that. It's just kind of a tedious little job just like taking them off. So get that off, and then we'll go back to putting the spec together and getting it back on the ground. All right, so I just went ahead and put the brake caliper back on, two 18mm bolts, and went ahead and put all those 10mm bolts back in. So all we got left now is the tie rod. I'll go ahead and tighten that up. I'll leave the torque specs for everything at the end, and maybe a picture of the truck with the 2-inch leveling kit installed. So this side's basically done. Don't forget to pop in your wiring harness on the top. It just pops in over the studs, and then that should wrap it up. Not too bad. Like I said, you will need some coil spring compressors, and it's probably the only special tool you'll need. And the rest of it's just taking it, disassembly and reassembly. So it should level out. I guess these trucks are raked a little bit. It should level the truck out. So that's a 2-inch. That's a Rough Country 1323 kit. I know some kits just lower. They just raise the strut on the bottom, which is probably easier to install. But anyway, for the 2021, they gave me this kit, so that's what we put on here. So anyway, I'll leave the specs below. I'll try to take a picture of it with its level afterwards, and at the end here, and then end this thing out. I am going to put some running boards on it. Maybe look for that video. I'm not sure if I'm going to film that or not. It just depends on how it goes, how much time I have left. But it's a Rough Country running board kit. So anyway, that's it for this. We'll finish this out. So thanks for watching. As always, God bless, and stay a little bit longer if you want torque specs and pictures. Thanks.